Good morning again, coffee chat people and flat belly fellow travelers. Another couple of words here on our last meeting we had on Tuesday, a few days ago, August 7th, I think it was. Anyways, it really was quite amazing. We had, I think it was 17 people out there, and it was quite a hot summer evening for Saskatchewan standards for sure. Yet we had a full house in this little meeting room in the coffee shop. There was no chairs left. There was basically no air conditioning that I can think of, and yet here were all of us engrossed in pretty much 2 hours of very organized, civilized talk on the topic of love. Quite astounding, really. The first little exercise we did there, though, was we asked the question, what is love? And we took the chance to go around the room, and anybody who wanted to say a few things, not everybody did, but to say a few words as to what love is to them. And probably not surprisingly, we got quite a variety of different ideas. A few of them that I had a chance to note down were pure essence of what we are, something to do with conditional and unconditional, how open our hearts are, in terms of the freedom of that gives us, an expression of who we are, an inner beauty to shine, honesty, truth, being there for someone, sharing without expectations, honoring self and others, an attitude we can use to help others with. And one guy said that to him, there's two kinds of love, essentially. There's addictive love, what he called addictive love, which is love for others. In other words, specific love between in the individual experience between one human to another, within family, etc. And then what he called love for God, which is universal in nature more. Another thing somebody else said was it's never really completely focused. It was really interesting, actually, because as we can see, love is something different for everyone. There was also a time to announce different things like books, resources, this sort of thing. One lady there shared a book called The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz that she's currently reading. Another one called The Four Agreements by the same author. Sound like some very interesting reading indeed. A gentleman there by the name of Lang has got a book reading club that he hosts periodically, and he's beginning another one on September 12th. Location to be announced. You can contact Lang if you go to the write-up version of this on the forum, and there's an email there for him. Terry brought along a printout that she found at a website, which once again is available if you go to the printed site, because it's hard for me to read it back here. It's called 15 Types of Love, and that was interesting because it was referenced by people throughout our discussion point and the different types of love that people interpret in terms of romantic love, etc. There's a lady at the meeting, her name is Colleen, and she does workshops specifically for women on think and feel yourself good, rather. I believe she has upcoming workshops in September and October, and you go to her website and get her phone number and website on the, once again, the print-up version of this, rather than me read it out. On one other note, somebody there mentioned that coffee chat could be better to be, whatever you want to use the term, a fragrance-free area. I forgot to mention that. Maybe the next meeting we can bring that up so we can get a sense as to what fragrances are the ones that are bothersome, and we can get clear on that. If I missed anything, please feel free to chime in and let me know, or post a comment on the blog there. And now a few words on what I had to share, because everybody had stuff to share, and anybody else, not for me to um, occupy all the space on this little blog. Everybody has a chance to also chime in and leave their thoughts, but I like to leave mine because I had something to share as well. So love, then, the idea is, what is it and what can it do for us? Well, there was somebody once said at Coffee Chat that love is, I believe it was Terry, once again, glue. It's like a glue that makes life stick. In other words, without it, there is no life. But for myself, anyways, a lot of this talk of love throughout my life was kind of fluffy in a way. It felt like feel-good talk. Because love, being one of those words like prayer or meditation, or there's many of these kind of words, really have, or God, have a lot of baggage attached to them simply because everybody, or so many people, have different takes on it. And then there's experts that come out and say this is what love is, and this is what love is, and ancient books say love is this and whatnot. So to me, at a certain point in my life, I said, you know what, I don't understand love. To heck with it. What's the point? But yet, I kept coming back to it once in a while because it felt like this something I should explore. And at this point, not just this point, but fairly recent years, the idea of love was something very important to dig a bit deep in to find out what it is. So in preparation for this little presentation, I did a little looking too, inner looking as well. Just I like to also look in the dictionary sometimes just to find out what the origin of the word is, because sometimes the origin of the word is rather telling in terms of where it came from originally. Well, I find that in Sanskrit, in the origin of the word, there's several different possible origins for the word. Anyways, Sanskrit, ancient Indian language, the origin of many European languages, etc., has this word called lubyati, which means desire. And that was supposed to be maybe an origin of the word love. And if you think about desire, desire is that sense within us, this urge within us to connect in some way with what it is that we want. It's like a feeling, it's like an urge, right? A desire. And in Latin, they have the word libet, which means it is pleasing. And that was purported to be maybe part of the origin of love as well. There's also a word that many of us have heard before, libido. That's a Latin word, which means, once again, desire. In Old English, there's a word called leaf, L-E-A-F, which means to leave or to love. And leave in this case means, usually the second meaning if you look up the word leave, which is often used in military lingo to go on leave. You know, you're on duty or you're on leave. Or liberty, to go on liberty, which means essentially having some freedom. So we could say, maybe rather humorously, but we could say it anyways, that we could put all those words together, you know, pleasing, desire, liberty, freedom. We could say that love is the freedom to experience desired pleasure. And, you know, whether this is accurate or not, it could be accurate for somebody, because remember the song by Alana Miles, love is what you want it to be. And as we saw, there's many different meanings. You know, and seeing how many meanings in just that small room that we had of 17 people, we could probably guess that if we were to ask 1 million people, we may get close to 1 million takes on what love is. So, I mean, trying to define this thing, love, trying to say what it is, trying to look into it, may appear to be somewhat elementary to our overall idea of improving the quality of our lives. But I think that, you know, and many of us who are truth seekers when we really look at it and we realize that this is a conversation that's gone on since the dawn of humanity. You look at almost all emotion-based communication, be it poetry, be it music, and it's in some way about love often. Well, not all, I mean, a good majority, a huge majority is about it. So it may appear to be elementary, but according to millions and billions of people, it's not. It's brought up so many times. Now, the word love, or the concept of love, I have to say I don't understand completely, or even to any great extent at all. Because looking at it from this perspective of so many people having different takes on it, nobody really understanding what it is completely, we have a word for that we humans use for what we don't understand. It's called infinite. In meaning not, it's not final. We haven't put it in a box yet and said this is what love is. We haven't defined it of finality. And while I have certainly no claim on understanding or defining love, I do have a sense, I've gotten to the point of having a sense of the nature of it, for me anyways. And you may say, Steve, well that's just, you claiming to have a sense of it is almost hocus pocus. Well, not really, because when we have a look at it, we can realize that we can feel something, but not necessarily understand it. For example, we can feel our heart beating. We can realize that it goes on we can be conscious of it, and it beats, and we can feel it. We don't understand necessarily how it beats in completeness, all the billions and millions of details that are going on there at once. But also we can be completely unaware of it, and it goes on. So the possibilities of love can exist, likewise, without our complete awareness of it. And we can feel also, if we take love to be something more than just something in a box of one definition, and we take it for something grander, we can experience it. I mean, when you hug somebody, that is real. When you think of somebody with compassion, that is real, right? When you feel emotions of caring, of connectedness, anything like that, that is real. You don't have to deny it. So the experience of what you call love, or what I call love, is real. It's just that we don't define it like I can define, this little package. It's grander, and there seems to be no limit to it. Normally, though, when we talk about love, it generally, what I notice anyways in songs and whatever, and poetry and whatever, it usually comes down to two aspects of ourselves. When I say aspects of ourselves, I'm talking about the physical aspect, the mental aspect, emotional aspect, at least, perhaps more, but especially those aspects of ourselves which we're very conscious of. Generally, though, when talking about love, it comes down to two, essentially. Normally, it comes down to the emotional and the physical. The emotional in terms of feelings like empathy, caring, and whatnot, and physically, generally speaking, in along the lines of sex. For me, anyways, love in this universal or infinite nature, I would say, is like a medium. What I mean by a medium is a medium through which we live, in that we're all connected. I'll use the metaphor of a block of wood, driftwood, floating in the ocean, that stays in the ocean perpetually. Well, the ocean becomes a medium through which that block of wood exists and interacts with everything. And the block of wood, even if it was to become conscious in a way, it wouldn't be able to discern the vastness of the ocean. It would just be, and everything that it interacted with, everything that it saw, everything that it existed as, would be in and through that ocean. Now, for me, seeing love in this light really adds clarity to the idea of love, because then it no longer belongs in the realm of limited of a limited concept, and therefore, because it's unlimited, just like to the block of wood, the ocean is unlimited. It's no longer love is no longer good or bad, right or wrong, needed or not needed. It basically becomes as though we're always in love. Just like the block of wood is always, if it remains as driftwood, it is always in the ocean. And all those other words like sex, romance, empathy, and so on only define the experience of being in the ocean of love. You're not, they are words, and words of course are always limited, because words are, they start and finish. They're like definitions and truncated ideas of an experience. So all these words which define, which tend to explain or get to the point of what love is for somebody in that moment, are just experiences. So the block of wood might explain its experience as being tossed around by the ocean. Well, that's just an experience of the ocean. It doesn't explain the ocean really in its completeness, because to the block of wood, the ocean is actually infinite. And to experience love, for us, individually, because most of the time we live individually, it can be very intense, because we have to transcend for a moment, it seems, outside of our individuality. When we connect with something which we perceive individually as not ourselves. Actually, and we perceive it to be. I use the word perceive because there's no such thing as experiencing something when we really think about it, which is not ourselves, because we experience everything in and through ourselves. But it's very intense because of that transcendence. But when we become aware of it, we realize the vastness of it, because all of a sudden we can't define it. So if we can't define it, it's infinite, it's vast. And I think there's no more intense experience in life for human beings, perhaps there are, through meditative devices and what have you. But the perhaps most desirable for most people is the experience of sexual rapture, where there is the build-up of desire. We talked about love as going back to that. There's the pleasing, the pleasure aspect of it. And if you think about it, the experience of sexual rapture is the melding together of the physical, the mental, and the emotional aspects of ourselves, and also the melding together of two individuals which can become one, as it were, in the experience of this event, to the point of a build-up to climax. And at climax, it seems in that brief moment, everything else disappears. There's no time. There's no sense of separation of mental, emotional, and physical. There seems to be no separation of two parties, especially when both parties are into it, you might say, together. The chemistry and everything's working there. Yet that experience of climax is very brief, but very real. And as you can see, very intense. And then there's the drop-off, once again, back down to the real world of individuality. But in being conscious of that, we get to experience this transcendence to this vast sea of love. So it cannot be denied anymore, as I see it anyways. So you might ask the question then, Steve, what's this thing with about anger and hate and all these sorts of things? Well, I would say that they're kind of like the other side of the coin of the experience of universal connectedness. The other side of the coin of that is the depths of individuality. And in the depths of individuality, sometimes we build ourselves up in terms of isolation and ignorance of individuality and build walls of things we call hatred, jealousy, anger, and whatnot. And it just seems like greater degrees of separation. Unaware, perhaps in those moments, of the connectedness still, but still connected, still in love. So one can experience hatred while being in love. The block of wood can be completely unaware of the ocean, yet we can clearly see that the block of wood is in the ocean. So the real truth is the love, is the ocean. The experience is what the experience is. The experience is of the individuality, or it's the experience of the universality, the connectedness. Love, from this perspective then, especially when you add to it the rational experience of those brief moments of climax, which consolidate the idea that there's more to this than just individual experience, because there can be a feeling of pure connectedness. To me, has become a most important endeavor in life because of the realization that there's more to it than just this individual experience, because the individual experience can be extremely painful. So when we realize that we can go back to our truth, the individual experience, it seems like, comes from the universal. This is how we exist. The only way a block of wood can exist as driftwood is because of the ocean. The only way that we can exist as life, as living individuals, is because of the medium of love. And love, of course, has been used as synonymous with God and so on down through the ages, as you know. So this is just the synonyms of what we're getting back to, this larger S self, you might say. And because of our rationality, even within the individual life, we have the ability to be consciously, on an individual level, aware of our experiences, those brief experiences of, you might say, the other side of ourselves, the grander side of ourselves. And we can truly come to say that I love always, now and always, and fill in whatever that love is. So even if we have, as one guy said at Coffee Chat, I love all, but I sure as heck don't like all. There's many people I don't like, he said. But I love them, because there's always that connection. And we can never stop loving unless we stop living, essentially, because one cannot exist without the other. Life cannot exist without love, in this case. And through love, then, and the experience of love, well, through love, really, and the experience of it, yeah, it's like seeing life without the filter of judgment, and therefore acceptance occurs. True acceptance. And once there is acceptance, there can be abundance. And once there is abundance, there can be untold choice. And the enlightenment from the burdens of attachment. And once again, there are roads of choice, which we, with great curiosity, can freely choose to experience, our desired pleasures. This, to me, is what love is and what it can do for us. Without it, there is no love. These are my ideas on love, a little bit esoteric perhaps, but please feel free to share your comments ideas, and I look forward to talking to you again in a few weeks. Bye for now.